Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 127 until I'm a YouTube millionaire. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about resonant frequencies. So, every object in the universe has a resonant frequency. Now, what is a resonant frequency? A resonant frequency is the frequency at which that object vibrates. Every object in the universe, such as the human eye, the human body, the table, a cell phone, depends on the frame of reference, but everything is comprised of atoms and subatomic particles and fundamental particles, etc., 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 all the way down to the Planck unit of time length. And it probably goes even farther than that, but we don't know how to get to that point. And at the very most fundamental of level, everything is just energy and frequency. The whole of existence. All of it. And what we perceive, you and I, and everyone else, is how it has collapsed into our perceptive ability to see, to comprehend the universe around us. All right? Everything. Everything is frequency. Everything is energy. Everything. So, what you can derive from that is the frequency at which a certain frame of reference vibrates. The frequency goes up and down, 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 right? It's peaks and troughs, peaks and troughs, peaks and troughs. And it's repetitive, keeps going. Ad infinitum, to infinity and beyond, like Buzz Lightyear says. So, to get to the very base here, a human body resonates at a fairly low frequency. It's like 4 hertz, I think, somewhere around there. That means you have an oscillation in the frequency, in the wavelength. You get 4 of them, 4 whole wavelengths per second. Okay? The light that you see, the visual spectrum that your eyes are physical transducers to be able to comprehend for your brain is between 400, 350, and about 750 nanometers. Nanometer is 10 to the negative 9th meters. Very, very tiny. The number of oscillations that can happen in a second are on the order of hundreds of billions. Okay? But anyway, a physical form such as the human body has a resonant frequency. And you say resonant because at the peaks and the troughs of the frequency spectrum for the object, that is where it's at its highest energy state. Energy states being related to the energy states of the actual atomic substructure of the material. Those energy states can cause that atomic substructure to actually have the electrons move to different electron shells within the elements of the structure, right? So, if you are bombarding something with its specific resonant frequency, or a multiple thereof, then basically what you're doing is you are maximizing or increasing the maximum, the amplitude of the peaks and of the troughs of the frequency at which that object resonates. And every object, like I said, has said resonant frequency, whether it's a building or a dog. Everything. It's the frame of reference. Okay? You find it specifically for that frame of reference, and if you bombard that object with its resonant frequency at a high enough amplitude for a long enough time, Nikola Tesla proved this actually many, many years ago when he was still alive. He had like a black box object under a building because he was trying to show people what he could do with resonant frequencies. It was an experiment. He was paid to do it, I think, because they wanted the building to come down anyway. You'll have to look this up. I don't remember the exact story, but I'll probably get like a little indicator on the video for you so you can see what I'm talking about. But he miscalculated the resonant frequency by just a hair. So since he did, it took a lot longer for it to happen, but it did happen. He bombarded that building with its resonant frequency, and over the course of a few hours, it finally ended up collapsing. You can do the same thing with a building, or with a body, or with a component of said body. Every object in the universe, depending on its frame of reference, has its own specific resonant frequency. For veins and arteries, it's about 1 hertz. The closer you get to a specific resonant frequency for a specific person's veins and arteries, the more pointed you can be with your attack on them. And by the way, that 1 hertz frequency that veins and arteries vibrate at, roughly, is such a long wavelength that it is not attenuated hardly at all through space. So it could be sent to Earth from Alpha Centauri or beyond, and it would get here with minimal attenuation, going through the atmosphere, going through the void of space, going through nebulae, all of it, because it's such a low frequency. So you have that, all right? If you find the specific resonant frequency, then you can be very, very targeted with the people you're trying to target. Very, very pointed. But then you also have things like gamma rays, or really, really high frequency stuff. The reason those ones are so obliterative, they're so destructive, is because they vibrate at such a high frequency that they essentially resonate with everything, or near enough. You'd have to be a very specific frequency to not be attacked and destroyed by a gamma ray. A gamma ray turns your DNA into jelly. I read a story, the criticality incident in Japan that happened back in 1996, I believe it was. There were 3 workers that got bombarded with the highest amount of gamma rays ever recorded. And one man was bombarded with 20,000 sieverts, I think it was, of gamma radiation over the course of a few seconds. And his body, his DNA turned into jelly. There was nothing left. It took him about 90 days to die because your cells have to recycle, and basically your whole body, all the cells within it, recycle in about 120 days. Odd to think about. Not all of them, but like your skin cells, your organs, stuff like that. Some of your bone cells, your nails, obviously. But when you get through that entire cycle, if you don't have DNA that is extant to replicate the same cells, they're not going to replicate. You're just going to decay and die. That's what happened to the guy. He survived it was right around, I think it was like 90 or 100 days or something like that. It was a very gruesome death, too. So that's how gamma rays work. That's how they are so destructive. But every object in the universe has a resonant frequency. The lower you go, the more specific and targeted your attack can be. So I don't have arteries, or I do, but just enough to keep my hands and feet alive. But I don't have pulses in my wrists because I had that kind of attack conducted upon me. I wanted to give a little bit more detail on how resonant frequencies work so that you guys could see exactly what I'm talking about here. Doctors, I literally had hundreds of doctors take a look at me. No joke. I'm not exaggerating about that. They couldn't figure out what caused it, but they knew it happened. I had several angiograms done and a bypass on my legs. Your legs normally have 3 arteries that reach down to your toes. And that gives you the sufficient blood flow that you need in order to have proper mobility and proper circulation and all that. My left leg had 1 feeble artery that was making it down to my foot, and my right leg had 2 feeble arteries. The doctors don't know what the hell happened. because I was a marathon runner before. And if anything else, or if anything, being a marathon runner should actually drastically improve your circulation. Didn't do that with me. They don't know what happened. I think I was attacked with a very specific resonant frequency. They discovered whatever mine was and obliterated those arteries. I remember I was getting ready to play basketball one day with one of my or with a group of my friends, my church mates, out in Ohio. And I looked at my right foot because I noticed it was really painful. It's like something had punched it. And there was a bruised line across my foot where the vein had literally disintegrated, or the artery. It was gone. I remember that artery being there. I remember it being, because I pay attention to my feet because I was a runner and all that, so I had to, because I had to make sure that I was keeping tabs on it and taking good care of myself. And I was appreciative of that artery there because it was so powerful and it was giving me good circulation. That day I went out there to play basketball with my friends. It turned black, and basically over the course of a few weeks it disintegrated. It was gone. This actually happened to me. I'm not exaggerating. But that's what resonant frequencies are. And it can be so specific that it can actually go inside your own personal body and attack a specific thing. Yeah. It's crazy to think about. But everything is frequency, everything is energy. We're all waves vibrating at different levels in whatever dimension. That's what it ultimately means. So, I'll talk more about this later, but I hope this gives it a little bit of a better perspective on it. Anyway. All right, guys. Have a good Saturday. Love y'all. Peace.